Yeah, mine's actually to the NRL and the speed in which they handed down the sanctions to the players after last week's incidents. Look, we've seen in years gone by the media build hysteria around incidents like this, the public get involved, and I've got no doubt in years gone by the NRL have reacted to the way the public and the media create hysteria around events like this, and off their own bat, they've just come out, handed down the fines, bang, they're done. It was all done within 24 hours, and now we just move on with it. So no, I think that was the best way to deal with it. And we've seen the NRL being real proactive lately, which I applaud.
OK, you applaud the speed. What about the severity?
Yeah, I think it's fair enough. You know, look, I'll tell you now, the hardest place to hit a footy player is in the back pocket. You know, we're seeing at the moment, the players are dealing with the RLPA and the NRL. It's all around pay. So the hardest place to hit them in the back pocket, I believe. You've got to remember, $20,000 fine, they've got to earn $40,000 to pay that.
Suspended, though, part of it. Suspended.
No, well, they fined 50 and part of it was suspended, so they've got to pay 20. Yeah, so I think they're fair.
Is it all around pay?
It's not all around pay. I think a large part of it's around pay, Freddie, but I think a part of it also is probably around medical and around if you go to training and hurt yourself, or in a game you hurt yourself, you've got to be out and you need surgery. You need surgery, but I think a large part of it's around money. And as I said,
the pay's more about clarity, more so I think than actual number. I think they understand the number they're getting. I don't feel like they're being greedy. I just feel like
I'm not saying that at all.
Clarity.
I'm just saying in this case, I think if you're going to suspend if you're going to fine someone, hit him in the back pocket. As you know at the moment, Freddie, we need all our stars on the field playing at the moment in the situation we're in at the moment.
I don't think it was anywhere near enough, and I disagree, Gal, to the extent I think players are hit harder by missing games.
I think clubs are.
I think you put them out. Look, this is a different situation that we're facing here, and the considerations they took into account, to me, I don't quite understand. The first one was that the players in this instance were given the benefit of the doubt. What doubt? What doubt are they talking about? And because the second one was that they weren't under their club cover, I suppose. Players, if they don't know now that when you sign a contract that you are a club representative and an NRL representative 24/7, 12 months of the year, just because you weren't under the club's auspices at that particular moment, that makes a difference, I don't get it. And I'll tell you what we have lost, the PR battle, and at the moment we need all the public support we can get. First up, it's NRL players again, and second up, I think that the vast majority of the public don't believe that the penalties were harsh enough as well with what is at stake at the moment.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see on Nathan Cleary's situation, but yeah, look, I think the $20,000 fine to Adokar and Latrell is fair and on the mark. Look, rugby league players are held to a higher standard than the rest of the society. I can understand that. So the rest of society getting a $1,000 fine for breaching these protocols, the players got that. They got that $1,000 fine. They then got a $20,000 fine. So they are held 20,000 times more above the law than everyone else. How much more accountable do they need to be?
I do think the rest of society aren't going out asking for their game to be allowed to be played again, which is going to cost possibly our game $200 to $300 million. So I can understand that we do get held high because we're asking an awful lot of the governments and a lot of their trust. I feel like, you know, there's also a lot of cloud around what you're allowed and not allowed to do, but I think the first two of the Josh Adokar, Latrell and Nathan showed a bit of disrespect.
Well, I think you've got to think about, remember Latrell, just on Latrell, and Adokar may be different. Latrell was on that property for 4 or 5 weeks.
Well, there's an invitation.
He may have invited someone, but he was already there. So
I don't think that's the issue, that he was on that property. I think that was his place of residence, so that's fine.
Right, that's what I mean. So he was already there, so he hasn't intentionally gone out and thought, well, I'm going to go camping this weekend. Maybe Adokar did, but Latrell never. So I think to say Latrell was a bit disrespectful is probably not on the mark.
Well, to have a camp, you're not allowed to have a camp at your house.
No, I know that. So he's done a wrong thing.
Whether he's invited them or not, you're still not allowed to have a camp at your house.
He has invited them. I think Josh Adokar approached him and said, my cousins are doing it tough, and Latrell said, I'm looking after the brothers, come on over. So
I think he
has consciously allowed them to come.
What is distasteful, we're apologising for stupidity and all those things. The thing that people don't like is the sense of entitlement, that it's almost, we're all in this together, except us.
But Sterlo, can you understand the sense of entitlement? We have the NRL, Peter V'landys, going out and doing something that no one else is allowed to do. The NRL is about to come back. The NRL is about to come back and play, which no one else is allowed to do.
The players can't transfer that onto individually that, well, we can do things differently because our boss is trying to do something different.
Well, I just think it encases it all in one situation. Oh, look, it's stupidity what they've done. And I think it's a line in the sand moment. I've said that. It is a
How
line
many
in the
line in the sands do we need, Gal?
This is the line in the sand moment.
But do you think
it's here.
After 2 or 3 months, Gal, I don't care if you don't watch the news or if you don't read newspapers or whatever, there is nobody in Australia that does not understand what was required of them. There is nobody that doesn't understand.
And it was stupid and it was idiotic, and they're being punished accordingly for it. What else do we want to see?
So suspensions, you don't think there should have been a suspension?
Because I think it punishes the club. I think it punishes the clubs.
I'm with Gal there.
And I think the hardest play is you hit a bloke in the back pocket. I honestly believe that.
I felt like the punishment was appropriate because what they did do, they didn't react to the media or they didn't react to other people, what they thought. Gus came out straight away and said they're gone for the year. And I like the fact that it looked like the league were actually sticking up for the players and the clubs. They said to the players, right, are you being stupid? You're putting us all under a lot of pressure. But what we're going to do is we're going to support you here. But if anyone else does it, there's going to be a totally different fine, which I feel like that was appropriate for the situation.
This stupidity and entitlement is at a time like no other. Like no other. There's so much more at stake now than what it's ever been when we've had player misbehaviour. That, to me, adds to the magnitude of the penalties and the offence, because it is putting people's lives at risk. Like the people who are on the property up there, we don't know who they had been around, and if you infect 3 other people, that infects more and more. So there's so much more at risk in this present day. We can't be talking about misbehaviour in the past because we've never been in this situation before.
Well, I've seen so many examples. I went to a park yesterday to get a cup of coffee and I saw 2 girls sitting having a chat on a park bench which had tape on it. It made me laugh, but I'm going, you know what, like Gal talks about, living under sort of different microscopes, and it sort of said to me that, you know what, people mostly are getting it, but there's a little bit of clouded area, and I don't think what they did was, I don't think it put lives at risk, really. Given the numbers and all that, like if you're sitting down and the reality of what they actually did, I don't think it put lives at risk. But I do think it's unbelievably stupid. And what they didn't realise was they could be the face of a game losing $200 million. Yeah. Now, you imagine the mental psyche around that, being the face of losing $200 to your industry.
Well, that's why I think, Freddie, it's a line. Look, I'm not trying to justify...
Million.
Still, I'm not trying to justify what they did.
You couldn't have more than 10 people at a funeral.
See, I think individually you're saying, well, they're not really putting lives at risk, and I get that, but if more and more people do it, you look at London, you look at New York, there is a reason why Australia has a death toll that's around 100, why we are so incredibly blessed. It's because almost everyone is doing the right thing. All it takes is for a few people not to do the right thing. We are human beings, and the virus is the same virus all over the world. We're all the same humans. We can be impacted like everywhere else. There's a reason we're not, and that's because most people are doing the right thing.
Yeah, most. Now, they're not the only ones. The thing I'm sort of getting for our society is we're doing a fantastic job. Without a doubt, doing a fantastic job. But there's people going over people's houses. It's happening a lot more regularly than we think. They're not the only people
that... You can do it now, 2 adults.
That's right. If you went across Instagram and all that and checked everyone's posts at the moment, you would see, a lot of people breaking the rules. So that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying the players, they've copped their punishment. I feel like it's fair. Yeah. I thought it was going to be more severe, but I just feel, they're part of a huge part of society, but they could have been the face of losing $200 million. That would be pretty hard to live with.
Just on the back of our last discussion, I guess you should have your say as well. How do you feel about the penalties handed out to the 4 young men?
God, you just bashed up poor Gal.
No.
Poor Gal.
You're all over him.
I think they're a bit soft, Sterlo, to be honest. I think most people thought they were. I thought they were a bit soft. I thought they'd get at least a game or 2 suspension. I didn't agree with the whole year, which is, I think, Gus called for them to be suspended for the year. I thought that was way over the top, but I thought they might get a game or 2. I'm surprised they didn't. I think the fines were... I would have been happy if the fines were reduced a bit and they got
more games.
A week or 2. So the suspended ban, what is that? It's nothing.
I agree. I think the suspended fine's a myth. I think it's a gutless punishment that you hand down when you're not prepared to make a tough call. And I agree. I think a couple of weeks or up to a month would have sent a very strong signal to the rest of the players that the whole industry, rugby league industry, is on the line if you guys don't obey the social distancing rules and the isolation rules and all those. The timing of it couldn't have been worse because it was the day that the clubs got the biosecurity plan and the state and federal governments are looking at the biosecurity plan from the NRL. Like it just did untold damage.
I do believe the increased financial figure as opposed to no games has a greater impact. Okay. And time will tell. But I think players are not willing to miss games, but I think they'd much...
What do you think young footballers have The older players
They
would.
think about
but
their-
do you think
they think about
the
their
younger
back pockets,
players have a
Webby.
real grasp of the value of money?
Do you really think that they're worried about missing 2 games of footy?
I think they do.
Over
I would be, Dave.
I think they
$50,000?
probably would.
I think the games
they
hurt
would.
more, and it hurts more because of the way their teammates view them. You know, you miss a footy game or 2 games because of stupidity. I think in the eyes of your teammates, you've let them down, and I think that means more than taking 20 grand out of their back pocket.
Although maybe
when they're on
disagree.
$800,000 a year.
the financial penalty might mean more when your wage has been in doubt.
But there's,
for a period of
we're
time.
talking a guy like Latrell. He's still on. What he gets 80% of 800,000. He's still on $640,000.
Personally, I would have bucked more against losing games than I would have financially.
I think that hurts footballers more. I think they, and particularly in a season like this, when you've waited so long to play, and all they want to do is play footy, and then you turn around to them and say, no, you've got to sit out 2 games before you can resume. I think that hurts.
I was more concerned about the way it was handled so quickly, which is not how they usually do things at the NRL. You can just see a complete change in philosophy when it comes to the integrity unit, because usually it takes a Royal Commission before they make a decision on anything. It was turned around in a day.
Well, you're critical of that? That they're now speeding it up?
No. I just think, but the fact that they did it so quickly shows to me that they wanted to get out of the news cycle. That's fair enough. But the other thing is, I reckon they just wanted their big name stars for the start of the competition when it comes again. And they definitely wanted Latrell up against the Roosters when Souths play them in round 3.
I do have grave concerns that we could have another slip-up.
Oh.
Look, seriously.
$1.04.
In the Phoenix
It's $1.04.
in the
As long
Phoenix
as
department.
Instagram lives and breathes, it's going to happen again.
Well, it doesn't make a lot of sense when you break the law and you put it up for everybody to see.
Absolutely, Pete. Yeah. That's
No,
what
it's not
Can
clever.
anybody explain to me the benefit of the doubt they were given?
In regards to...
In regards to when the penalties were introduced, the statement said that in this instance the players were given the benefit of the doubt.
Well, I think because the protocols hadn't come into effect when it happened. They were away from their clubs. They weren't under the jurisdiction of their clubs because they'd been given time off to. They were still getting paid, but they'd been given time away from their footy clubs. So I think they viewed that they weren't under the club's auspices and the protocols weren't in effect.
I didn't get that. Nathan Cleary, obviously there's been a development in regards to the TikTok. Does he deserve a second sanction?
Yeah, absolutely. And as far as making sure, well, making every attempt to put out another warning, as far as they can't be putting the game at risk as what they have. And that's why the second sanction has come. Nathan wasn't completely open with the NRL integrity unit in his first interview. And, yeah, absolutely deserves it.
He didn't declare his TikTok.
I didn't even know what one was.
Neither did I.
But you know what? He's in the leadership group of that club, I think. And what sort of an example has that set for his teammates? He's gone into an integrity unit meeting and not been completely truthful with them. You know, so again,
by omission.
We talk about a $10,000 fine. I think he got. I think it ends up $4,000 when it's suspended. It's less than 1% of his contract. I mean, again, I don't think a bigger fine. I think he needs to miss a footy game. To be honest, I think he should miss the start of the year. Is it unfair that players in the NRL are treated differently than the general public in regards to $1,000? What is it, a pin these days? I think it's called. Our players are fined more than that. Whether it's fair or not, that's the world.
That's just the reality of the fact of being a professional athlete. Yeah. You know, you're governed by, and I don't make up the rules. I wish it was, still in many ways an amateur sport, but that's just how it is. That's the publicity and the scrutiny that goes with it. Yep. Yeah. And that's why you get paid the big bucks.
And when you sign a contract,
that becomes a responsibility
to
a big professional sport, then you're going to be judged a lot harsher, and I don't like it. And I don't think it's right. What are you laughing at me for?
Because you said you don't make up the rules, but I'd like you to. How good would that be if Webby made the rules?
I just have an opinion on the rules.
The world's crazy enough as it is. All right.